The following is a Hoop Ball presentation.
Hello and welcome to the Hoop Ball NBA DFS Today podcast. Today is November 1st, and we are going to be working on the 8-game card for tomorrow, November 2nd. My name is Joe Sarvati, affectionately known as Coach, and I am joined by my partner in crime here, Mr. Mike Apotria, and it feels like I've been off for 2 weeks, man. I've not had 2 days in a row off from podcasting, and I can't remember when, brother.
I know it's like you retired and you just forget the days and times. You were just asking me before. You're like, "What day is it?" I was like, "Coach, what were you doing for 2 days? Going to take a little beach vacations, a couple mai tais on the beach. Comes back. I hope you've been crushing it. I missed you, man. It's been a while. It feels like."
It has. I had that monster GPP win, and I on Tuesday night, and then I have 2 days off. I can't even get on
Oh,
here
that's what happened.
to brag about it. Can you believe that?
That screams Bender. Guy wins a GPP and then he's gone for 2 days. Goes missing. I wonder what happened.
It was so fun, man. I actually went to Buffalo Wild Wings with my son and to watch the late game, the Laker game. And so, we're there, we're having a blast. And I see my team, has a shot to take down the whole thing. And that was with a single bullet. I played one entry in that $125 entry. And I needed Contavious Caldwell Pope to finish strong. And get about 5 or 6 points at the end to take over the guy that was ahead of me. And if you remember the end of the game, he hit 6 consecutive shots down the stretch. So KCP will be on Coach's all-star team for life after taking that one down. So that was pretty cool.
I hope you left that waitress a nice tip after that. She probably had to deal with you, scraping your fingernails off the table from you sweating a hard one out in the middle of Buffalo Wild Wings. So I hope you gave her a good hookup.
She had, I gave her a couple high fives during that run, so she made out just fine. It was a lot of fun. So
I'm sure she could keep her lights on with those high fives, Coach.
Well, you know what? That was not the only thing I gave her. She got her money and she's happy. Everybody was happy. My son got a cut just for helping me boot it in, The coach share. The coach
The coach shares the love. I know you do, Coach. I'm just breaking your stones over here.
I know. It was fun, though. I just thought, man, it's my first good GPP of the season, and I got to go 2 days off. But, hey, it is what it is. But you guys did a great job. Listening to you guys both nights, I thought you did a terrific job. Great calls on a bunch of stuff last night, man. You guys were all over it. The one takeaway I had of yours that I thought was the best that I didn't hear any other touts in the industry say was the Derrick Rose back in Chicago, even though he's with the Pistons. And I'm so glad you brought that up because I jammed him in my lineup. And when I was watching that, truthfully, the fans were cheering for him and the Pistons more than they were the Bulls. It was amazing.
Yeah, and there's some narratives I say you can buy into, some of them you can't. Derrick Rose going back to Chicago is one that you can 100% buy into. Just if you think about the documentaries and the footage over time, I watch everything that comes out about basketball, NBA, whether it's high school, college, whatever it is. I'm all over it. And there was an actual live interview when Derrick Rose found out he was being traded to the Knicks in the first trade from Chicago, and he literally bawled his eyes out in the middle of the interview. He couldn't even finish it.
Wow.
He grew up there. This is his hometown. Yeah. This is the narrative you buy into. He's going to want to put on. The one negative that was coming into the game is that it's the front end of a back to back, and he's dealing with a hamstring issue. But I can easily see him just playing about 25 minutes tonight, and if he absolutely has to, he's going to sit tomorrow or on this card. So that's something I'm going to monitor that we'll get to. And there could be a chance that we don't see Derrick Rose play on this card, and that would open up some value.
No doubt about it. But outstanding call, great shows, and let's keep the momentum and everything rolling. But before we jump in, it's an 8 game slate. 7 games on the main slate, but we never skip a game here on Hoopball DFS today. We get every game in case people want to play that solo. I had a nice hit on a solo early game last Saturday, so I want to try to repeat that. But we are sponsored by Fantasy Draft, our presenting sponsor, and they also sponsor the Coaches Challenge. And I really enjoyed listening to your guys' take on sort of lineup breakdown of the champion of this week's Hoopball Coaches Challenge, and so that was cool. I'm glad you guys did that. It really helps you learn and look inside of some of the really good sharks in the industry. And if you notice, there were some really solid guys in our contest. Some people that are well known. Sharks all over in DFS. I think Papa Gates was in there, and a couple other big names. It's cool. It's great to see as we're growing and getting more and more listeners and more people joining in the contest. But again, we thank Fantasy Draft for making all that happen and being the main sponsor behind this 7-day a week free content that I firmly believe is the best in the industry. And, go to fantasydraft.com, sign up with the promo code HoopBall, and get 7 days free membership and up to $1,000 in contests. Also, a couple of our other sponsors we want to mention real quickly. Manscaped.com, which is, I know, Mr. Apatria's favorite sponsor. Go to their website. You get free shipping and 20% off with the promo code HoopBall. Also, mybookie.ag for all of your betting needs. They are the best. And Hawaiian Isles Kona Coffee Company, our original sponsor. So with that, we're going to jump in. As you know, we record these pods the night before for several reasons. Specifically being that we want to give you a chance late night or early tomorrow or lunchtime tomorrow to listen to the pod, start preparing your lineup so you're not scrambling at the last minute. Definitely listen to go to our Twitter feeds and check those throughout the day tomorrow prior to lock to see any changes or anything last minute scratches, that kind of stuff. So we are in the middle of the really cool Friday night card here. I know Michael and I are both excited. When we're done with this, we're gonna be watching the Mavericks play the Lakers, so that should be a blast. We've got some good burns going here. Exciting. I've got some looking great in some tourneys right now. We were talking about a little bit prior to jumping on. Andre Drummond has like 36 fantasy points at halftime while we were just jumping on the show. So there's some good things happening tonight, man, and hopefully we can take some stuff down and when we get on tomorrow's show, we'll be able to review some winners.
Yeah, man, I got a decent little sweat going on. I did bite some chalk that is biting me back right now. But of course, I told you I never 100% anybody in my lineups, and only 20% of my lineups are kind of falling to the TJ Leaf chalk.
Ouch.
Yeah, it's a little bit of obvious, but I played a bunch of Sabonis, and a lot of those were just basic pivots to Sabonis, just in case he got into foul trouble or if for some reason the ball was falling off the rim towards TJ Leaf for most of the night. I had backup plans involved with those, but he was enticing on DraftKings at small forward. I didn't play any of them anywhere else, so I'm still shooting. I'm still shooting from the hip. And I did mention, I told you before the show, this is why I don't jump on trains, Coach. Tristan Thompson sunk a couple of my lineups as well. So I played him in a few, and those ones, 27.5 fantasy points isn't getting it done where I want it to. But my Karis LeVert call felt pretty good. I'm happy with his points. He's carrying a couple of my teams. He's my exposure to that game.
Nice. And, like I say, as when you can fade the chalk like a TJ Leaf that everybody jumped on at almost minimum pricing, that's even better than sometimes playing the guys that have big games. It's just, you got to avoid that chalk. And as you know, our goal on this show, and we've done it right through the preseason into the regular season. We're never going to be guys. We're not 150 mass entry. We're going to give you the chalk 8% of every chalk play on the board. We're going to give you some big ass fades. We're going to give you some value plays and try to actually talk to it in a sensible way that we realize we live in a salary-based DFS world. And so we're going to try to give you a mixture of picks that will fit into those lineups. So let's jump in right away so we can keep rolling and get back to watching some hoops. There's one early game that's not on the main slate. Like I said, it's a 5 p.m. Eastern game. One theme in talking about these games tonight is there are several teams that will be on a back-to-back that are playing tonight that are also playing tomorrow. I'm looking right now. I see Brooklyn, Detroit, Orlando. It looks like Milwaukee, Golden State. And so all of those teams we have to consider when we're going through this, that they're on the backside of a back-to-back. And that'll have massive ramifications. So we'll try to discuss some of that now. But again, if some of these guys get ruled out tomorrow, check it. Because we're on Twitter. We have a great team that's blurbing and putting things out at Hoopball Fantasy. Check on there on Twitter throughout the day. And certainly you can follow the three of us. I'm at Joe Sarvadi, JoeSarvadi. He's at Mike Apotria, MikeApotria. And our man Andrew is at Language Olympic. Okay, we got all the pleasantries out of the way. The New Orleans Pelicans and Oklahoma City Thunder are the first game on the board, and would you like to dive into that, sir?
Let's do it. So, obviously, this is one of the games. It's an early one. We're going to have to monitor the news, but it's the first game of the day, so we will have that news. But right now, Steven Adams, I believe, is questionable. I'm actually putting him on the better half of doubtful just from recent reports over practices the past few days. Mentions that he doesn't look like he doesn't look like himself. He doesn't have lift really off the ground. So I would expect him to sit, and I think I'm good to go to fire Nerlens Noel right back up. I think this is going to be an excellent matchup for Shea. Hopefully we see Drew Holiday guarding more of Chris Paul. But we want whoever Drew's not guarding at the end of the day. So whether it's Shea, whether it's Paul, one of those guys should be in line for a fairly good game. I don't like to touch people when Drew Holiday's on him. He's an all-pro defender. And then the other spot is obviously Danilo Gallinari. I'm not really going to dumpster dive too far into the bench. If you're playing this game, usually on most sites it's 5 or 6 spots max. So you're not looking to, get more than generally 4 guys from one team regardless. So I think the 3 main or 4 main guys I mentioned are the only guys on OKC I'm looking at. And if we slide over to the Pelicans, I think it's going to be the obvious names of the guys that we've been playing, which would be, Lonzo, Drew, Okafor, if we know he's getting the starting nod again. And then, I think Brandon Ingram's just got to be a lock at this point.
I was so pumped last night, by the way. I was telling everybody at RotoRadar, fade that big thug Jokic. He's such a waste of skin. And he got outpointed by Jahlil Okafor head-to-head. How badass was that, man? That was amazing.
It was kind of badass because on that same pod, I think I did a show, and I liked both of them. So I won the part where I wanted to play tons of Okafor, and I did. I played him in 100% of them almost. I think I had him in probably about 90% of my lineups that night. But I also probably had about 70% or 65% Jokic in that same breath. So it. Dude,
I've been beaten down on him since the first day of preseason. I can't believe if I was on, I'd have talked you out of it.
It wasn't even about like his play and thinking I had plenty of money to spend. There wasn't a lot of priced up options on the slate. It was him, Kawhi Leonard, and then you're looking at Jimmy Butler and Bam. And I wasn't really attracted to that first game against the Hawks, but it was Heat versus Hawks and the second time that they were playing in a few days. So I wasn't really too interested in that. I didn't target too many priced up guys, and it turns out a few of them did well. I didn't really play any Butler, and he had a great game, but I still managed to cash out everywhere. So,
Very good.
despite by having the Jokic.
I was just so happy about it because he was so incredibly high owned. I just loved it. But anyway, I digress. All right. Yes, in this game, I like Shea again. I know I'm the Shea card carrying holder of the Shea fan club somehow, but I like Shea and I like Nerlens as well. Nerlens was priced basically at almost minimum and had a really solid double double. He was dinged just a little bit, and I saw just a report here a couple hours ago that he's feeling fine. I'm with you. Watch the news, but I believe Adams is out. That's the way I'm going to handicap it. So because it's a pace-up game, New Orleans is the fifth fastest paced team in the league. I'm going to go with two Thunder with Shea and Steven Adams. And then on the other side of the ball, by the way, I wanted to mention before I go over to the other side, I believe that Drew Holiday will guard Chris Paul. So that's my thinking to, sort of follow up on what you stated, because that is key. He is such a good defender. You want to avoid his head-to-head D. On the New Orleans side, it's really been sort of Brandon Ingram's been the only guy that's statistically done a really nice job. Gentry's sort of doing the play 9 million guys rotation here right now, and I don't think he has any idea who he wants to go to. It looked like Jackson Hayes was going to get some run. He got in foul trouble. He started Melly for the first time. Ball, Walker, Frank Jackson got hot during that game. And then, of course, Holiday and Hart. Kenrich Williams. How the hell do you decide? J.J. Redick. I'm terrified of playing anybody on that team. And, with your theory of sort of what happened to you with Tristan Thompson, I just know as soon as I jump on Brandon Ingram, he's going to throw a dud up there. And so I'm fading New Orleans altogether.
Yeah, well, at the end of the day, you gotta, I think, take a couple shots on a couple of these guys. No one's saying you have to play a ton of them, but this should be a pretty fantasy-friendly game, I think, overall.
It's going to be interesting. All right, the first game on the main slate, it's a 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time start. Brooklyn Nets, Detroit Pistons, both coming off games tonight that were contested games. Brooklyn, is playing Houston, and Detroit and Chicago. So, who's going to sit? Who's going to be on a minutes, restriction, if you will, on a back-to-back? That is really going to be interesting. You got to watch the news. It's going to affect everything in this game, without question. I would definitely not play guys like Kyrie Irving on a back-to-back. I just can't see. I would think he's either going to sit or play minimal minutes. And same thing with even your man, Mr. MVP. What are the chances he plays a back-to-back with a sore hamstring? So keep an eye on Rose's news. Is there value in this game? Drummond has been unstinking believable, and Brooklyn's the worst against centers. So if Drummond's going to play, he's automatically going to start my build, period. If he's not going to play, then I'm not going to punt to like a Thon Maker. I will go to Christian Wood, though. So for me, it's going to be Drummond. If Drummond sits, it's going to be Wood, and that's 100% lock and load. On the Brooklyn side, I don't trust anything coming off this Houston game until I see some news. You would think the best play if Irving does sit or play minimal would be Dinwiddie, but I watched quite a bit of that game before we went on the show in the first half, and Dinwiddie just looked completely out of sync. So I'm not sure if that's, the best option, although he's a streak shooter and you never know how that's going to go. LeVert was stepping up and playing hard, again, on a back-to-back tough call. So a lot of that I'm just waiting on the news. I'm definitely going to fire up a big from Detroit, and then we'll just go from there. How about you?
Yeah, I think Drummond's 100% in play. He's probably going to be the start for a lot of people's builds. They're going to see the same matchup that we're seeing. I'm not really worried about the back-to-back for him necessarily. They had one earlier in the year. He played 40 minutes on the front end and then 36 on the back end. So I don't think his minutes are necessarily going to be limited. And it's something that the Pistons are going to go into this game knowing that they have to expose, and it's their front court. So I think Drummond's 100% in play. I definitely think we have to watch the Derrick Rose news. If he's out or if he's going to be limited, I think Tim Frazier is someone that we can look to fire up. He's a great point per minute guy. He easily racks up assists, steals, even a couple rebounds here and there. Not the best scorer, but he's close to minimum salary, and it's somebody that can really bode well for this kind of slate. We're going to have a ton of value later in the game due to a couple suspensions of a couple chicken suit guys that we will get to.
Hey, chicken suit, and you tried to avoid the loss, man. I'm ashamed of you, Mike. You should have just stepped up and took the loss like a man. You tried to weasel out of it, and the NBA had to give us a ruling. And it's 3-2 coach.
I'll let you have it. I did try to put up my fight. It didn't work well. Kind of like Karl Anthony Towns in that fight.
Can you believe those two? They were our chicken suit challenge, and then they got into a fist fight.
I think they play in March or something, man. I can't wait to watch that matchup again. It's going to be intense. God. It's going to be one that I got circled on my calendar. I can tell you that much.
That's so funny.
But back to the this game. Keep an eye on that because that's the Tim Frazier news. If I hear he's starting with Rose out, and he's looking at 30 plus minutes, he'd be a great value play that we could look at. I'm not really focusing too much on anything else. I think Christian Wood is a high risk GPP play just because we know his minutes are kind of volatile. When he gets them in this kind of matchup, he'll absolutely smash. So he's somebody I'm going to keep an eye on. I'm not going to overload on him. If we for some reason Drummond were to sit, he'd be probably a lock and load in everybody's lineups without a doubt. Looking at the other side of the ball, I don't think we have to worry too much about necessarily a minutes limit for Kyrie. It's just a great matchup where I kind of want to target and pay up for him. 17-4 on fantasy draft and a back-to-back against a team like the Pistons. They're not good defensively, but they're kind of like mediocre right now in the standings when it comes to pace. So not the matchup I want to target him. I'm not really jumping on the LeVert. I jumped on LeVert tonight just because of the matchup. Again, don't like the matchup for this. I think the only guy I'm really going to be looking for on the Nets would be DeAndre Jordan because I know that Jared Allen started tonight, but DeAndre started the 2 games prior. This just seems like it's a bigger body matchup where he would be more fitting in the starting lineup than Jared Allen, and he might actually end up seeing extended run if we're looking at like 24, 25 minutes from him. We could be looking at another big rebounding game from him. So he kind of intrigues me a little bit, but we do have, like I mentioned, a ton of forward and center values that we're going to be talking about later. So really only if you land on them, I think it's necessary. So there I am. That's what I got for you right there.
That's good. Good analysis. All right, we go to the other 7 p.m. Eastern game, and it's the Denver Nuggets at the Orlando Magic. And let me give you a quiz question, and I guarantee you're going to get the answer. Who is the last and second to last slowest teams in the NBA?
It's definitely can't be the Nuggets Magic, but I'm going to go Nuggets Magic because you wouldn't be asking me this question.
It. Winner, chicken dinner. They're 29th and 30th, and they're both, just grinded out, slow basketball, and I want nothing to do with them. And I am not taking, I'm certainly going to continue to fade Jokic forever until he shows that he is getting in shape and actually wants to be out there. He looked so embarrassingly sluggish in that last game. It was amazing. But no, I'm not even going to go and waste my precious time in this discussion. I'm passing.
I don't want to waste anyone's time either. I just have one thing I want to point out that I'm keeping an eye on, and Jonathan Isaac looks like he went to the locker room hurt tonight. So if he were to sit out, I think Al-Farouq Aminu would probably be the most likely candidate to draw the start. He's 7'5", so I like to just mention a good value play. His upside's never tremendous. We know he can play 30 minutes sometimes and put up very little stats overall. And then we see the other games where he puts up 37 and a half fantasy points in limited minutes. So very volatile guy, but he might be looking at 30 plus minutes tomorrow night.
That is a good point. All right, we go to the third game on the main slate: Minnesota T-Wolves minus Cat, obviously. And the Washington Wizards. What do you think, man?
I think this is going to be a fantasy-friendly game, especially knowing that we're going to have some value opening up with Karl Anthony Towns sitting out. I think Covington is a guy that I've been getting wrong this season. I'm going to get him right. It's bound to happen. This is a great matchup for him. I think that we're going to see him have a little bit of uptick in usage. He's not a big usage guy, so now maybe he can kind of level off into like a good second or third option on this given night or at least 2 nights during the suspensions. And I think he's going to have a little bit more rebounding upside in this kind of matchup. So I'm going to be on Covington. I think the obvious candidates to fill in for Karl Anthony Towns' minutes load would be Noah Vonleh and Jordan Bell. We might even see a little bit of Gorgie Deng. That's their true backup center. But they're going to be jumbling it up, I think, a little bit between the 3 of these guys. And if I had to pick one of the 3, my favorite play would probably be Jordan Bell.
Interesting. Okay. How about the other side of the ball?
Other side of the ball, I think Bradley Beal is obviously always going to be an option. I think Thomas Bryant is definitely going to be an option, knowing that Karl Anthony Towns isn't necessarily a great defender. He's actually pretty poor.
Terrible.
He's pretty poor in that breath. But the other options that are coming in aren't that great either, and they're a little bit of smaller bodies. While Thomas Bryant's kind of a bigger body guy, he can stretch the floor, which he's been showing a little bit this season. The only thing that's kind of bothering me is his price tag. I want it to come down a little bit. I don't know if I want to pay $13.8 yet. Once I start tinkering with some lineup builds, I'll figure that out. But otherwise, I'm not really touching anything. Rui's at a fair price tag where I don't think we're getting a lot of value. I think some of the value is going to be a little bit better in some of the other games that we have to choose from. So I'm not really going to go to Rui, and I'm not touching the point guard thing.
You could have had it. Could have been 3-3 if you would have stuck up for Mr. Isaiah Thomas.
He's lightning in a bottle. In the right matchups, I love targeting him, and I'm probably going to continue doing it. I don't think this is the matchup I want to target him in. I want to find him in those games where it's going to be he's going against 2 or 1 star-studded players who are going to be coming out gunslinging, fast points, fast pace. Like they're going to need his buckets. Those are the games I want to target him in. He's going to come off the bench and just chuck and take 15.
No doubt. As far as my take on this game, I really love this game. That you've got the 2 top 10 pace teams, 7th and 10th in Minnesota and Washington, and without Cat, there's just a massive amount of usage shift for Minnesota, and I believe that a lot of that's going to go to Andrew Wiggins. You're going to see him be one of the highest guys owned. There's going to just be a ton of ownership shifting to him. And I'm not a Wiggins guy. I know he's been a little more aggressive this year, but too many empty stats, too point dependent for me. I'm going to shift to Noah Vonleh as my, if I use him and Nerlens Noel strategically in my lineups is what I'm planning on doing, I think it opens up a huge amount of salary for me. And I think Vonleh can put up a double-double. I really do. I think he's going to get the start. And again, we got to see all this news, but I just got a feeling he'll get the start and be able to produce. I also am going to consider Jeff Teague or Robert Covington. I may use one of the 2 in a cash lineup and one of them in a GPP. So I think there's at least 3 solid guys from Minnesota in play here, strictly because of the massive usage that's going to come open with Cat being out. So I'm excited about that side of it for sure. And then on the other side of the ball with Washington, that extra salary I was talking about, I'm going to use definitely for Bradley Beal. I think, a lot of people are going to say, well, he blew up like that because it was that crazy 159, 158 game against Houston, whatever. But if you've been following Beal, he leads the league in usage for a player for his team. So, I sort of was on that early on talking about that. And statistically, you look it up, he leads the NBA in usage. So I'm on him. I think he's just awesome. I think that he's in a groove. He needed, I think, that bust out game to feel comfortable. It's a home game with Minnesota being shorthanded, so Beal and Drummond are going to lead my build for sure. And after that, Thomas Bryant I like a lot. I think that he's very, very tempting, and his price tag is creeped up a little bit, but he's certainly going to get some look for me. There's some of the sites where Vonleh and Bryant are both power forward and center eligible, so you got to look through those. But yeah, this is one of my favorite games. I'm going to have probably two guys from each side for sure, or 3-1, four guys representing. This is my game of the night.
Oh yeah, and I'm right on board with you when you're talking about Wiggins taking a bunch of shots. I mean, he takes a bunch of shots anyway. I wouldn't be surprised if he's upwards of 28 shots. But like you said, he's very scoring dependent, and that's the reason he's one of those guys that don't play. So I'm just going to continue not playing him. And you might be right. Maybe Vonleh is the guy that starts. And at the end of the day, we're going to want the guy that's in the starting lineup. I don't know if it's going to be Vonleh. I don't know if it's going to be Jordan Bell. When I was watching the game when the fight happens, I believe Jordan Bell actually might have been the first one that checked in once the whole ejections and everything got sorted out.
Okay.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I could be. I'm pretty sure if my memory serves me correct, that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, I did not. I don't remember that. I can go back and look though, real quick. Go ahead. Keep evaluating. I'll take a quick look.
Yeah. So that's my thinking. That maybe that's the way that they want to go with it. But they did bring Vonleh in for a reason. So, and we did remember when Vonleh was playing for the Knicks, and whenever he did have opportunity to be the starting center in the lineup and play 26 plus minutes, we were seeing good stat lines. I mean, this is a guy that he was getting upwards to almost that 13K range on fantasy draft, and that 6'3", 6'4" range on DraftKings. So. Whoever's in that starting lineup, whoever's playing center, is going to be in a great spot, and someone that we're going to want to target. And if it's Vonleh, I'm with you, Coach. I'll be having him in a ton of my lineups. If it's Bell, I'll have a ton of Bell in my lineups.
Yeah, and after the ejection on Wednesday, Vonleh played 15 and Bell 12. So, yeah, now that makes me nervous, man, because if they're going to just split those minutes, I don't want any part of it. I was hoping we'd get one of those guys to play 25 to 30 minutes as the guy that's plugging in. But if this is going to be a center by committee with him out, then I'm going to check out. So that's a tough call.
Yeah, I think that's why I think it's going to come down to whoever the actual starter is, because at the end of the day, if this game stays close, which I'm fully anticipating it staying pretty close and being pretty tight down in the fourth quarter, we're most likely to see the starting unit stick together and most of them play 30 or close to 30 minutes. So I'm probably going to be only looking at the starter. I mean, the obvious pivot would be whoever's not starting, because the starter is going to draw where all the ownership of the attention.
Yeah, if it comes down to it, I'm gonna keep looking into it. But I may just go Teague and Covington, because Covington will get a lot of those rebounds too that Cat usually gets, because he does hit the glass. So good point there, and that's a good thing to talk through, because that can be a TJ Leaf slate crusher kind of thing if a guy, one of those guys only gets 10 minutes and just punches you in the nose,
Yeah, absolutely. And not to mention Jeff Teague and Covington have the largest usage bump when Karl Anthony Towns has been off the floor. So we're looking at Teague seeing a 9.5% usage bump and Covington seeing a 7.6. So, and actually, it's not really a marginal move, but Wiggins with a negative 0.01 or 0.1. So I don't know if he's breathing less or what it is, but it's not really a move whatsoever, but he's not seeing a bump up. So he might just take the same out. He chucks anyway. That's my theory behind it. It's not like he's going to get more rebounds and everything else, because Cat doesn't like to do that regardless.
Right.
He's just going to plan on chucking regardless whether Towns was playing or not.
Yep. And remember, it's the only matchup of two teams in the top 10 in pace on the card, and that's worth more possessions, more DFS points. Okay, we very good. Let's see here. I've got to switch back to screens now to get to our next game at 8 o'clock game, the Phoenix Suns and the Memphis Grizzlies.
So you said you like the other game. I like this game.
Do you?
Yeah, man. This is going to be a fast-paced game with a bunch of fun young guys to watch. I'm going to enjoy watching it. I'm going to enjoy playing it. I'll start over on the Grizzlies side.
Memphis is second, Phoenix is 13. So you're right. Good call.
I'm looking at, on the Memphis side of the ball, all the young talent there. I think, John Morant is a guy that we've kind of been touting a little bit. I can say it for Andrew. I know Andrew's been touting him pretty well. He's kind of at a fair price. I think this is a good matchup. Rubio could cause some problems. The only thing that worries me is his minutes. We kind of seen him dip back down to that 25 mark after he came out and exploded against Brooklyn for 50 fantasy points. He played 32 minutes in that night. And then he went right back down to the 25. So I think he's in play. He's more of a GPP guy. I'm not going to have an overload of him, but I wouldn't be shocked to see him have a good game. But what I want to do is expose the front court. I think Jonas Valanciunas' minutes limit is starting to get raised a little bit more and more. I think eventually we're going to want to hit him on that one game where it's gone. We might not, we might have the news, we might not. So keep that in the monitor. If we see that he's getting 25 to 28, that's plenty enough for me to play him in this matchup. He has massive upside. He's a great points per minute guy, and I expect him to fully smash in the starting lineup. So I'm looking at him. Jaren Jackson Jr., he's always in play, but the foul trouble is going to plague him, so limit him to GPPs. And then where I really want to get my exposure is on the Suns side of the ball. I think this is another good spot for Devin Booker. I expect him to eventually get priced up. He's still only at $15K in fantasy draft. That's just too cheap. This is a guy that we've seen have massive upside. He's going to keep leading the team in shots. DeAndre Ayton's out. That's their second go-to scorer. And I'm going to keep riding the hot hand. I think we can keep riding Kelly Oubre Jr. He's been absolutely smashing this season. And then your guy, Ricky Rubio. He's looking fantastic. And it's hard pressed to, even in limited minutes, not want to play him. I mean, he's averaging 31.5, but even in the game where he played 28 against Utah, that's a tough matchup. He played limited minutes. I think he came into the game injured, and he put up 10, 10, and 8. So I definitely think he's an option. He hasn't had a game lower than 30 fantasy points this season, and he's 12-5. So that's where I'm looking to get most of my exposure is those three guys in the Sun, and I think I'm going to be looking at a little bit of Jonas over on the other side.
Well, my new favorite son is Aaron Baines, 58.1 fantasy points at a very cheap price in his last game. How about that for punching value in the chops? I mean, he plays his butt off, man. I love that guy. Does he come back to that number? No, 58.1, I doubt it. But I've already got some value centers, so I'm not probably going to click the Baines button, but I did want to mention that because I was so proud of that pick in his last game. He just smashed it. I haven't dialed up as much of a fan, and as much as I like Ricky Rubio, I have not rostered him this year, but I like him in this game. I think that the pace is good. Jaw's quick and he gets a hand on everything, but he gambles still on D. It was, just like a rookie would. So I think you got to consider Rubio at a fair price like that because he does contribute all the way around. He gets some boards and gets it done. Oubre's starting to sneak up on price a little bit, but is in consideration. I don't think I'm going to take the Devin Booker bait here because I think he's going to be so highly owned. And I like Dylan Brooks' defense. I think he plays hard, he gets up in it, and really he doesn't do much offensively, but he does get after it defensively, and that's enough to scare me off of him a little bit. On the other side of the ball, I also like Ja as well. I think that, he and Rubio both could have good games. It might be a game you want to come right back, with the other guard and double up there. I'm with you on the Joe Val thing. I mean, he has been awesome when he's played. They've stuck with a very, very stringent 25-minute max for him, and it's cost them a couple of games by not being able to play him in the fourth. So I checked everywhere I could, and I can't find any other reports on what that minutes limit restriction, if it's changed or been increased. Everything to me still looks like, without any news that it's still 25 minutes. And I just can't pull the trigger. I want to. And as soon as I hear he goes to 30, I'm going to do it. But at 25, it just scares the hell out of me to go that direction. So I think the only guy on the Memphis side I'm looking at here is Ja, and hopefully he doesn't have a ton of turnovers and can get it done.
Yeah, and I'm looking for that news, and that's something I want to see. So I know you said you saw 25, and he hasn't even played that yet. The most he's played this season was last game, and it was 22 minutes. And he's been putting up double-doubles the past 3 games. He had a
I know.
44 fantasy point night in 19 minutes 2 games ago.
That's insane.
He's a fantastic point per minute producer. This will be a great matchup for him as well. And if we do hear if he's actually going to play 25, that would be even better. But I want to see 25 to 28 minutes, or if there's just no minutes restriction. As soon as we hear that, honestly, I almost don't even care about the matchup. He's going to be too cheap. This guy's going to get up there in price tag, and at some point this season, he's going to be at least 14K.
Yeah. I agree with you, man, and I want to be on him. I love the way he's playing. So, yeah. So let's keep reading up on that. I mean, but man, are you going to pull the trigger if he's only playing 20 minutes?
I don't think I need to. I mean, maybe in a couple GPP lineups, just because he'll be severely low owned. Like I said, I think a lot of these higher priced forwards and centers are going to be lower owned just because of all the value that's going to be available at the positions. So I think pulling the trigger on a couple of guys like that, he'll end up probably being 2 or 3% owned maximum. I'm sure on this slate if we don't have any news on the minutes restriction.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. That's for sure. All right, let's go to the last 8 o'clock game, and then before we hit the two late games tomorrow night, and that game is Toronto at Milwaukee. That should be a really fun game to watch. The two favorites to win the East, and a good matchup. It's being played in Milwaukee again. Milwaukee's coming off a back-to-back. They played tonight. So Toronto's got to travel to Milwaukee, but they did have the night off. For me with Toronto, I've been amazed this year, and it's a stat that I think everybody needs to be aware of. I did a little homework on this because, the numbers were sort of proving out, but everybody assumed that when Kawhi left the Raptors that mantle of minutes and usage and time and everything would be taken over strictly by Siakam, period, and that Gasol might get a little bit more responsibility at the center. But it's actually Siakam's the same usage level as he was last year. All of that has gone to Kyle Lowry and Fred VanVleet, the two backcourt guys. They have both been fantastic this year, and they're both playing monster minutes. It's a big game against Milwaukee at Milwaukee. It's a statement game. And, I don't believe Bledsoe's a good defender at all on the Milwaukee side. When they do bring in who's their backup point guard? It's escaping.
George Hill.
George Hill. When he gets in there, he can defend. But, Lowry's going to get Bledsoe mostly. So Lowry's in play for me without question, and VanVleet's in play. I think they both, are 35-minute kind of guys, and I think both will be in play with Milwaukee coming off a back-to-back, getting big minutes and being a statement game. So I'm going to consider both backcourt guys rather than spending the massive number on Siakam, who's going to get some Giannis defense, which we know. He's defensive first team type player. On the Milwaukee side, I got stung the last time. I went all in on Giannis, and he is awesome, but he hasn't been as dominant this year as he was last year by any stretch. And I know he's been really, really good, and I'm not saying to fade Giannis. It's just his salary, being the highest salary guy on the board makes it tough. And, they're going to be really zoning in on him defensively, Siakam and Gasol and everybody. So I just don't want to spend the majority of my salary on Giannis tomorrow. So being that it's a back-to-back, I think they'll rotate guys a little bit more. And, I'm going to pass on the Milwaukee side and roster a couple Toronto guards here and see where it takes me.
Yeah, I don't blame you. At the end of the day, they did limit some of their starters' minutes. Middleton played 20, Bledsoe 27, Giannis played 30, Lopez played 25. They got a bunch of their
They blew them out.
yeah, yeah, it was absolute 123 to 91 game. So that kind of does help. And part of me wants to knowing that Giannis is the play that narrative of knowing how fierce of a competitor he is, knowing that this team, or it's their competition. He wants to beat them. He wants to be the best in the East. But I'm not just going to start building lineups off of just made up narratives that I can't really go by, Coach. So I'm not going to be too heavily owning Giannis. I think that we have some other options on the slate that we could turn to. I don't really like the back. If I am going to play him, it would be in some sort of game stack scenario where maybe I want to play two guys on the other side of the ball. Maybe play like an OG and then play Lowry. OG is probably going to be, one of my favorite value plays on the Toronto side of the ball, just because I do think that Lowry and Van Fleet are pretty much priced accordingly. But I'm with you. I do think Lowry's in a good spot. I think this is a matchup where if this game stays close, it's going to have a lot to do with him. And I can easily see both those two guys leading the team in scoring if Siakam's going to struggle a little bit with Giannis on him. So I kind of like the way you built that game script for yourself. And I think it's one that could be useful for other people as well. So if you're kind of going with the narrative that you think Siakam's going to have struggle on offense, get the two guys that are going to keep this game close on the other side, and that's Van Fleet and that's Lowry.
And that's a real contrarian opinion because Giannis and Siakam are going to get all the ownership, and it's definitely outside the box, but I think it makes perfect sense. And I'm glad you brought up Anunoby because he's one of the most improved players in the league. If you look statistically at what he's done thus far this year, defensively, minutes played, and his production, I mean, he's been really, really a pleasant surprise. So that's a good value guy that you can go to at any time just because of how much he's improved and how he stepped it up. But, Giannis is shooting from mid-range to outside to three has been just abysmal. And, with Gasol, Ibaka, and Siakam defending inside, man, I'm not going to – I don't feel comfortable with Giannis chucking 20, 25-foot shots. So, again, I'm not saying fade him. He's almost an unfadeable guy to say don't ever play him. But I think Toronto is going to muscle up against him. He's not shooting the ball well. And, I'm going to go elsewhere. All right, man. Awesome. Couple of things quickly. Again, thanks to our sponsor, Fantasy Draft. They are the only rake-free fantasy site in the industry. Their NBA contests are incredible. They have a $30,000 pick and roll daily. That's $25 to enter and a $5 $7,500 layup contest. Great contest. I'm in them every day. Get in there. Go to fantasydraft.com. Sign up with the promo code HoopBall and get that 7 days free. Also, thank you to our other sponsors, manscaped.com, mybookie.ag, and Hawaiian Isles Kona Coffee. Make sure to tune into NBA DFS Today podcast every day. We're 7 days a week. We are everywhere the podcast can be found: iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Podbean, iHeart, Spotify, YouTube. Please take the time to rate, review, subscribe, 5 stars, likes, thumbs up, all greatly, greatly appreciated. Those go a long way in keeping our sponsors happy and allowing us to keep this content free for you 7 days a week. Also, connect to us on Twitter. I'm going to mention it again because, again, we do these shows the night before. If you're not following it the next night and following everything we're doing on Twitter, you could make a mistake. One mistake can kill your card. So I'm first of all, it's at Hoopball Fantasy. Make sure you jump on there on Twitter. All the blurbs and everything goes up there. I'm at Joe Sarvadi, JoeSarvadi. He's at Mike Apotria, MikeEAPOTRIA, and Mr. Andrew Hansen, the biggest Ja Morant fan in this country, is at Language Olympic. And also go to hoop-ball.com, go to the forums, click on the DFS forum thread. We have two unbelievable guys, Miles and Andy, just pile driving info on there, 24/7. People that are scratched, news, everything that's going on. Get on there, check it out. And when you're on hoop-ball.com, sign up for our premium content. We've got all kinds of things going. We are a one-stop NBA fantasy shop. All right, bro, 2 games left. Last 2 on the slate. Let's see, where are we? It is Charlotte and Golden State. You got it.
All right, man. This is a game that, unfortunately, we're doing before we can kind of find out exactly what Golden State's going to do for 4 full quarters. So we're going to kind of have to go off a whim and what we basically think they're going to do tonight and hope the same thing transitions into this card as well. And looking at it, D'Angelo Russell, I think, is going to be one of my main targets on Golden State's side. Just all the usage he's going to absorb with Curry being out. He's going to be a little bit more prone to handling the ball, probably a few more assists. Great matchup against the opposing point guards. Terry Rozier probably couldn't guard me. So he's a guy that I like to target other point guards going against. So I'm really going to be on board with Russell. I think Draymond Green is obviously going to be another popular play on the Warriors side. I don't know how I exactly feel about him. I think he's priced a little high, 17-4. Yes, I think the periphery stats are still going to be there, but he's not a guy that is going to benefit from a ton of usage. He does struggle to find his shots on some nights, and he's going to be forced to shoot. He's better off when he's trailing on a play, and because they had Clay, they had Curry, and at points they had Durant on the wing and on the inside where he had all day to shoot. He's not good at rushing shots. He's not good at jacking them and forcing them. So I'm actually thinking about fading Draymond completely, letting other people buy in on that, with that increased, assist usage. I think that's going to happen. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
But even if he puts up, 10 assists, 10 boards, and then it gets you 6 points at 14-4, that's barely going to get it done. So I'm fading him, and then just knowing I kind of want to see what's going to happen with this guard rotation. But I think Jordan Poole already got announced the starter, so I think he's definitely going to be in play.
Right.
And Glenn Baby Dog played big minutes the past few games. He's going to be an option. I don't really love his price tag on Fantasy Draft. He's 9-1. But I wouldn't knock you if you wanted to take a shot on him. And then Eric Pascal. So those are the guys that I'm really interested in kind of finding out how this usage is going to be distributed amongst. I think the better options would be Pascal and Poole. But we're going to have to wait and see, I think, after tonight's game.
Good call, man. How about on Charlotte's side? Did you say anybody on Charlotte?
Charlotte's side I'm not really too interested. If I had to play 2 guys, Cody Zeller's been crushing. His rebounds have been there every single game for the past 4 games. I expect that to kind of continue in this matchup. Offensive games, not really known for it. It's not a big one. But Terry Rozier, I think they're going to be forcing the minutes, and I think the matchup just got a little bit better for him, knowing that this team's going to be able to stay close with them now. I mean, Golden State's been playing pretty piss poor for the season as it's been, but Charlotte's the worst team in the NBA, and now that at least they know that they might be able to compete into it a little bit. So I do think Terry Rozier playing 30-plus minutes, his price tag's pretty fair, 12.5 on Fantasy Draft. I think he's another option, and then Cody Zeller would be a more of a cash option than a GPP for me.
All right, man. Well, I like a few Charlotte guys. Golden State's playing very fast, even though they're utilizing most of their bench guys. They're still playing at a super pace. I like Devontae Graham. I've been riding him all year cheap, and he keeps producing 4 or 5x constantly. So I like him a lot, and I sneaky like Miles Bridges in this game. He seems to play way better in a wide open game when he can run the floor and throw down some windmill dunks and all that kind of stuff. So I'm leaning towards playing both of those guys, Devontae and Miles. I like them both. On the Golden State side, this is a value play city for me. I'm not going to touch D'Angelo or Draymond. I know a lot of the usage is going to go there. I'm considering playing 3 guys, not that I'm going to play all 3 of them. I'm going to choose between one of them of these 3 play cash and one on my GPP lineup. But it's the 3 guys that I think are going to see the biggest usage bump as opposed to it going to Russell and Green. And that's Jordan Poole, Glenn Robinson, and Eric Pascal. I think those 3 guys are all going to be 3 key contributors, logging a lot of minutes and getting the opportunity to really shine. So, with Curry having surgery today, he's going to be out a minimum of 3 months. They've already announced the Clay's out for the year. This is 100% mail it in season for Golden State. I think they'll, probably package Russell in a trade, load up on draft picks. They have a first round protected pick next year that's lottery protected, top 10. So they're going to earn that, I'm sure, and keep it. And so, you got to look the rest of the season, to be honest with you, until the pricing catches up. Poole, Robinson, Pascal, Kai Bowman is another great guy. He's going to either be the backup point guard to D'Angelo, or at times, if they go small and bump D'Angelo to the 2, Bowman may start. They also have Alec Burks. I mean, you got to see how all these guys play out, but I think they're going to let the younger guys get the majority of this time, like the Pools and Pascals, to see, make it an evaluation year on some of these young guys. So that's how I see that one, my brother.
I'm glad you mentioned Alec Burks, because I talked about him on the show yesterday with Andrew, and it was part of the reason why I didn't want to really dive into this value available tonight. I didn't know exactly what it was going to look like, and I knew Alec Burks was coming back from an injury. So some of these guys that we have been seeing get run at the 2 is going to lose their minutes to Alec Burks eventually. He's going to probably play a 25 to 28-minute role at some point this season. He's working his way back from injury, though, so this being the second half of back-to-back, I'm less worried about Burks taking minutes from people knowing it's a back-to-back.
I'm with you. And that takes us to our final game of the night. And it is the Philadelphia 76ers, obviously without Joel Embiid, and the Portland Trail Blazers. So, interesting matchup. What do you think, man?
I'm probably going to spend a good amount of my money in this game. Knowing that there's going to be a lot of usage. I'm not saying I'm going to stack it, but I can tell you right now, I'm probably going to have at least 1 or 2 of the expensive guys over there on the Sixers, and I really like Damian Lillard in this matchup as well. So there's a few guys that I think that we could spend up on. We know that there's going to be probably Horford's going to probably slide over to the 5. We'll see Harris move up to the 4. Both those guys become excellent plays. Harris, we see his rebounds kind of skyrocket once Embiid's out and he's playing his natural 4 once again. And the same thing goes for Horford. We're going to see a little bit of the offense kind of flow through him at the top of the key again. So I'm looking forward to those 2 guys. I think Ben Simmons is always in play just because he does get a small usage bump with Embiid off the floor. It's no secret. He takes a lot of shots. But it also just means more available rebounds. I mean, Embiid's a guy that you could pretty much count in for double-digit rebounds night in and night out. And those are getting distributed amongst the starters, because we're not talking about another guy that's necessarily coming off the bench to get those rebounds. We're seeing other guys shift up a position. So those are pretty much going to get distributed amongst the starting lineup. So I'm really interested in trying to get that. And looking at the other side of the ball, like I said, I think this is going to be a good matchup for Damian Lillard. I think he's underpriced at 16-7. I think that's something I want to take advantage of, and I know that this is a competitive game. This is not an easy matchup for him whatsoever. So, don't be shocked if the dud happens. I would say it's a GPP sort of lineup kind of thing. But I can easily see him breaking this kind of slate. He'll go under-owned, knowing that there's all these other options that we have. We have Kyrie Irving on the same slate. Like I said, we just mentioned Ben Simmons. We have Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, Kyle Lowry. There's a lot of other guards that are going to draw some attention. So he's probably going to go under-owned. I never play CJ McCollum. I just can't get him right half the time. He's more of my pivot lineup play if I'm playing it.
He's been hot, too.
He has, and that's exactly why I'm staying away, Coach, because it's just bad news when a guy's been hot and I try to jump on him. I generally only play CJ McCollum if I'm running out. Let's say I'm playing 20 lineups in a night and I have Damian Lillard in 14 of them. I'll play 2 or 3 with CJ McCollum to kind of pivot off of him and hedge my lineups just in case. But, another thing we have to monitor is Hassan Whiteside. If we hear that he is out, there's a ton of value that's going to open up, and I'm playing all the Scala Bissiere if he sits.
All right, man. I like that. I like the Scala Bissiere call if Whiteside sits, because we already know that Collins is sitting. So there's going to be a boatload of rebounds, and he doesn't have to face Embiid. So I think Scala's, we just have to wait to hear the news on Whiteside. I'm with you. If Whiteside doesn't play, Scal's a plug-and-play 100% lock for me. God bless you, I think.
Thank you. I tried to turn the mic off before I sneezed, so I really do appreciate it.
No worries. I'm going to steer clear of Lillard and McCollum just because I like Philly's defense. Simmons is so rangy. Richardson's an all defensive player, lockdown guy to me. And Thibault off the bench is a great defender too. So I'm going to steer clear of Portland altogether unless that Whiteside news comes out, and then I'll go with Scal. If Whiteside's playing, I'm not playing Whiteside anyway. I will never roster that dude. He's just ridiculous. But, and then I guess on the other side of the ball, there are a few tempting guys for me. It's just, the rotation changes so much when Joel's out that, they share the usage. It just seems like there's a lot of sharing. Horford as a 4, because there's not a lot of good power forwards on the board, would probably be my favorite because he is going to scoop up probably 15 plus rebounds with Joel being out and Portland being thin inside. So I think Horford's a fine play. But other than that, I think a lot of these guys are somewhat overpriced. And I think I'm not going to have much of a late night hammer sweat tomorrow because I'm not going to focus too much on that game.
The more I think about this Lillard price tag, the more I'm losing my mind over it. He's only 16-7, and he's had 4 out of 5 games over 50 fantasy points this season. And he's had some pretty difficult matchups. Opening night going against Denver, 51 points. Last game they played OKC against Chris Paul and Shai. Chris Paul's an excellent defender. I don't care how old he is. Shai's a lengthy young guy. And the game, he put up 58 in that one. The game before that, going against DeJounte Murray for most of the game, put up 54. So I'm not really, worried about the matchup necessarily when it comes to Lillard. It's big shot, Lillard. That's what he does.
And it's in Portland, so
the moments don't phase him. Defensive matchups don't phase him. He'll pull up. He'll get his shot. It's just his play style. He almost thrives in these kinds of difficult matchups. So, I think just for the simple fact of where I think his ownership's going to be, the low price tag, I'm kind of talking myself onto him a little bit more and more as we go on. But, I like how you brought up the price tag for a few of these 76er guys. It's not something I really took into account for. I immediately just, talked about how much I like them. They are priced up a little bit. So it is something to think about when you want to talk about these guys. 13.5 for Tobias Harris and 13.2 for Al Horford is priced appropriately where they should be, knowing that, Joel Embiid's out. So definitely think about that. But I think there's still some meat that could be left on the bone for him. And it's exposure to the late game hammer. I mean, everybody always wants to have a little bit of exposure. It's nice to go to bed sometimes seeing that you're winning money and wake up knowing that you won even more.
No doubt. I think you talked me into Dame. I may try to squeeze him in, but if I can't, I may do a lineup where I pivot from Beal to Lillard and go that route too, because I think you're right. The only thing is, though, what if they put Josh Richardson on him? That scares me a little bit. But like you said, he's somewhat, I just think about the shot that he hit in the playoffs when Paul George was guarding him from, half court almost.
Oh, yeah.
So I guess
wave bye-bye.
It doesn't really matter. Yeah. And I forgot to mention earlier, though, if you brought the ball up 5 times on Terry Rozier, I am going to bet you $100 that he strips you 5 straight times. You said he couldn't guard you.
Oh, that's facts. It's absolutely true. There's no doubt about it.
He dunks on the other direction.
No, I lay hard fouls, coach. Don't let that. That's not going to happen. I'll get posterized in a hard foul, maybe 3 out of 4 times, but that one time I'm laying the wood. No.
Scary Terry's going. He's the one that's going to be scared.
I'm a very good backyard basketball player when it comes to, I did play a little bit when I was younger. Fundamentally, I was a good point guard, very good vision. I had a very good jump shot. I was pretty much lights out from the free throw line, 90% from the line. But I could not dribble, so you got me there, coach. That was my one struggle. I played point. And as soon as they double pressured me at the half court, I was giving that thing up so fast. It was not even funny.
Handle got you, huh?
That was my one. I was good when I didn't. Once the pressure got put on me, I forgot how to dribble instantly. So that was my one struggle. I had a couple cross moves, nothing that I would write home about, and it was very easy for guys to strip me when they wanted to.
Well, all I know is that the hotel that we're going to stay at when we have this hoop ball get-together at the NBA Summer League in July, they have a half-court basketball court. So can you imagine that pickup game? Like you and I and Andrew against Benjamin's Dan Bespris, who I'm just guessing isn't a real strong post player.
Oh, that would be fun, man. I listen.
And
We
we
would need
need
that.
Brew. We'll get Brew out there in the block.
We're gonna need some oxygen masks and some like baby
It's
Ruths
only
and
half
whatever.
court. That's the beauty of it. It's only a half court.
Coach, I
So
tried to
you
play
don't have
like
to
2 weeks ago, man, and we were playing half court, like 3-on-3. Me and a couple of my buddies.
stop.
I was lighting it up. I was hot, and then I'm asking them like, all right, guys, what do we got for score? And I'm winded and I'm gassed, and they're like, all right, it's like 5-3. And I'm like, oh god, this is rough, man. I'm out of shape. I'm a
Oh,
skinny
God.
guy over
I
here.
am too. I am in bad shape, dude. But it's funny. I cannot flip the competitive switch off. I'm like a psycho out there. A couple of years ago, my son and his buddy that they played for me on the AAU team, we somehow got into a half court game with a couple of guys that we didn't like very much, sort of jerky guys. You should have seen the old coach pushing and shoving, even threw a few F-bombs out there. It got a little bit crazy, but we won. We won 2 for 2 and stepped off the court and said, see ya, rolled the ball out. But yeah, I just can't wait to take Vespers down to the block, especially after he stunned me this week, by throwing the old man jokes at me and, zinging me. So, I don't know how much he actually listens to these shows. So hopefully he won't hear this, but
Hear the
I'm
call out.
taking him. I'm taking him right down to the block, man, and it's not going to be a pretty thing for him.
I'll feed it, Coach. I'll feed it. I'll just set it.
I
I'll
love
set
it.
it up. I'll feed it. I'll let it. I'll let you do your work, man. I'll back off. I'll actually just go on the other side of the court. I have confidence. I want to know who wins though between you and your boy. You said he's in AAU. I know he's getting a little older. Do you still have what
No,
it
it
takes?
was my boy and a kid that played for me and myself
Yeah, but
against
who's
3
winning in
others.
the driveway after Thanksgiving? Who's winning that matchup one on
Well,
one?
here's the thing. The last time that I beat him by like a point, which was probably about 3 or 4 years ago, I stopped playing him. I refused to play
Yeah.
him. But he still never beat me in horse.
You tried to do that with the chicken soup battle too. Look at you. I see your game now, Coach. You get a little lead, and then all of a sudden you're like, I pulled a hammy. I'm done.
No, no, no. I'll wait until I'm up a few, and then I'll make the move. I'm smarter than I look. That's for sure. That much I'll tell you. All right, brother. Any final thoughts on the card? I'm going to go watch this Mavs Lakers game. I'm psyched for this. Any other Saturday stuff for you?
No, just monitor the news that we talked about. Keep an eye on who's going to be in the starting lineup for Golden State and a few of those other spots. We already pretty much, I think we have a good idea of what's going to be going on with Steven Adams. I'm expecting him more or less to sit. But, Derrick Rose is another name that we're going to want to keep an eye on and just really monitor it. Try to have backup plans for that last second, news break or whatever if we hear it. So, yes, we're going to know what the starting lineups are a half an hour before, but keep an eye on what the beat writers are saying, what we're retweeting, what we're saying over here on the fantasy blurbs, because you'll get a better understanding or idea once the coach is kind of pregame press conferencing saying maybe that, this guy might play 28 minutes tonight or he's going to see a minutes increase, whatever it may be, might come out. So keep an eye on everything. We'll try to get it out there for you, though, if you don't see it.
Good info. Good info. Well, fantastic, man. It's good to be back after a couple days off. It was fun. I missed the show. So good stuff. We jump on the money train. We're hot, man. We're gonna just ride this right into the weekend. So awesome stuff. Thank you for joining us on Hoopball NBA DFS today. For my man Mike Apotria and in absentia, the Ja Morant fan Andrew Handsome. I'm
I like
Coach.
that.
Yes, we will catch you tomorrow when we look to crush it again on NBA DFS.
This has been a Hoop Ball presentation.